2025 has been one of the most packed years for video game releases that I have ever experienced. Every year I have the lofty ideal of trying to play every major title that I wanted to experience in order to make a gigantic definitive list of all of the things that I really liked and want to give attention to get people to try out. With the release schedule of 2025, that simply was not possible. It's a good issue to have, but there are simply too many games coming out this year that interest me. It is why I am one of the biggest proponents that video games are at an all-time best, and think it's bullshit when you see clips making the rounds of people moaning that there is nothing to play. I'm sorry, this year alone I could make a top 100 list if I had unlimited time. Sure, there are a few select genres that feel like they are struggling and have not seen the success or height that they had during their golden ages, like RTSs. There are still good games coming out in the genre, like I had to come back and mention how Total Warhammer 40k got revealed at the Game Awards, but there still feels like a noticeable hole left where StarCraft, Warcraft III, and Command & Conquer used to occupy. The industry still has a laundry list a mile long of issues, as we've seen an uncountable number of layoffs and studios closing this year, tons of games asking for exuberant price tags with predatory microtransactions, while also running like absolute shit, taking the ever more common road of release it broken now and make as much money as we can and fix it in 6 months, where it eventually plays and runs at a state that it should have released in and be at what was the normal, acceptable, expected standard a game to be released at only a few years ago, where it feels like I actually have to praise a game for running well at launch, like this wasn't a given only a console generation earlier. There's also the greedy and stupid executives heavily pushing for the use of AI, some even completely uprooting their companies for it, and storefront owners like Tim Sweeney pushing back against the disclosure of games using generative AI. Hell, some of the games I had and still have pretty high on this list later were found out to be using generative AI. Some of them did remove it, but you know, they still have the stink because of it. These things all suck and need to be fixed and addressed, but we are also in an era where it feels like there is a game for everybody with any interest constantly coming out. We weren't getting a game like Cruelty Squad 10 years ago and it hitting meteoric success and cultural impact that we are now seeing a ton of inspiration and imitators doing well enough to get a second game from the same developer that is just as unique in its own different ways that sets it apart from Cruelty Squad with Psycho Patrol R. The accessibility to make games and get people interested in your projects, even if you are a one-person show working out of your bedroom in your spare time, is at an all-time high. There are amazing games coming out every week. You just gotta put in the effort to look. Like every year, there are sadly games that just did not make the cut, and that's not their fault or a mark against their quality. They are simply too long and not nearly as high of a priority on my list as multiple smaller games that I could fit in that playtime. Sorry 100 Line and the remake of Trails of the Sky 1, but you are going to be the cool JRPGs I missed this year. There always has to be at least one. Anyways, the list of games scrolling on screen now are the ones that I could not fit in and didn't have time to play them. If the reception to this video is good and people seem to have interest in it in the comments, I'll probably or maybe do a follow-up video trying to fit some of these in, with the goal of this video coming out in a timely fashion, unlike my 2020 Game of the Year list, which did not come out until February of 2021 because I made time for 13 Sentinels and every segment was basically its own video's worth sized review. I wanted to consider all of these for this list, but it is too difficult to play everything, give them the time they deserve, while also making content and playing other games for other videos. Trying to do this has honestly given me a level of appreciation and respect for any content creator or games journalist who manages to do this, because for as easy as playing video games for a living seems, time management for it when multiple 50 to 100 hour games are involved and you are on a strict schedule is not. Some of these games on this list have already been reviewed on my channel, and some games I have way less to say about them compared to others, so the amount of time I'm going to spend on each will vary. I'll be linking all of the full-fledged reviews I made prior to this list for any of the games covered in the description below. It should go without saying, but expect spoilers for every game I am going to mention. Let's start this off with my honorable mentions lightning round. This segment is for games that I did play and do like, but did not have enough time to spend with them as I would have liked to feel comfortable enough to give them a ranking. But first, a word from this video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. With it being the holiday season, meaning you're likely going to be traveling traveling pretty long distances to visit family and friends, a game like Raid with endless amounts of content and the exclusive giveaways using my link in the description below makes it the perfect time to get on board. For new players, Raid is also giving out the Ultimate Death Knight using promo code UDKING on screen now. The Ultimate Death Knight is the jack of all trades. He is both excellent in PvP and PvE encounters. His passive allows for redirection of attacks on other champions. He heals himself whenever enemies do so. He brings great supportive skills with party buffs, heals, and shields. He's great for shutting down enemy legendary champions with his provoke and AoE attacks that decrease attack and apply fear. You really don't want to miss out on picking up this character before March 31st. But don't worry, if you've been supporting and playing Raid since the start, using the 2 promo codes on screen now, existing users can get 1 full energy, 10 XP brews, 100k silver, along with unlocking Tagore upon registration with my link in the description below, and unlocking Tyrell once you hit level 15. Raid has informed me that surprising and mysterious things are coming. A major crossover with an iconic franchise. It's coming soon and it's time sensitive. Raid is playable on the go with your phone or in the comfort of your own home on your PC, and it's merely a click away. Don't miss your chance at greatness and join today. The first game on my list is the sequel to Daemon X Machina, and we are kicking this off with a kind of difficult game to place because I almost did not want to include Titanic Scion to begin with. You see, I played the demo leading up to the release and I enjoyed it, and then got the game and streamed the first few hours and played some more off-stream. The mech gameplay is really fun. It feels good to zip around, boost canceling and styling on enemies. I really like the suit customization. The combat feels good and smooth. Guns have great feedback, and there is a variety to mix up your arsenal to how you please. It feels really ergonomic to play on a keyboard, just like the first game, where I did not like how it played on the Switch when it ran like shit before it got ported to PC. The only issue is that everything else around these things aren't good and actively make me have less and less fun the more I played it. The story is serviceable at best, which is in line with the first games, whose story I can't even remember anything about. For some reason they made the game a looter shooter. I don't get why they wanted to make this game fucking Borderlands. I acknowledge that there is some part of my monkey lizard brain that lights up when I see myself get a new piece of gear to select off of a dead enemy that is better than what I currently have, but I would have rather had a straightforward shop and finding rare parts to add to my collection akin to Armored Core compared to this. The game is open world and you guessed it, feels super fucking barren. After playing Armored Core 6, which has very large mission locations, it makes this game feel so slow for traversal. I am playing a mech action game. Why the fuck does it feel like the best thing to do to not waste my time is to use the map to fast travel? The whole point of this game is to be a fast-paced mech fantasy simulation. This isn't even mentioning the multiple turret and vehicle segments that suck, or how the game is trying to be a shitty live service, because that's just what you do now. You release a half-finished game and a roadmap for content and you drop $70, which did not even seem to run well for a lot of people at launch. I was not one of those people who suffered from this, but I think it's worth mentioning because it is going to be a worrying trend throughout this list. Daemon X Machina is such a frustrating game to me because it has all of the components to be an amazing addition to the mech genre, but it's bogged down by terrible modern game design trends. Instead of feeling like another alternate to Armored Core, it ends up being Anime Anthem. Okay, the next honorable mention is a lot more positive, and that is the remake of Final Fantasy Tactics. Originally, I wasn't all that interested in picking this game up because I own the original, and if I want to replay Final Fantasy Tactics, I can just boot up my PlayStation 1. I thought it was really cool that you could pick and choose which version of the game you wanted to play. I wish more remasters and remakes did this, and I will be bringing it up later down the list for some other games that could have really used this feature. The one thing that did pique my interest was that the game was going to be fully voice acted. After some months passed, I saw a clip of the game's voice acting and it made me go, yeah, I want to see what this game's performances have to offer. I only had the time to go through a bit of the game since I chose to prioritize fully new released games over it, but I am loving the voice acting and it has enhanced the experience so much for me. If you are interested in a deep dive of the version differences in comparison to the original PlayStation 1 release and the War of the Lions PSP release, Austin SV V did a really good video about this on their channel. I'll be linking it down below. So my family came together and got me a Switch 2 for my birthday, which allowed me to play some of the games that I otherwise would not have had access to if they did not. Just saying now that I still haven't played Metroid Prime 4 yet, but I will soon do that for my multi-game review that I promised on the Prime quadrilogy. Anyway, that was only a week or two ago depending on when this video gets uploaded, so I haven't had that much time to mess around with them as I would have wished to. So that's why Kirby Air Riders is going in the honorable mentions instead of being ranked. I don't know if I'll even have the time to finish DK Bananza either, as I'm still playing through it as of the time of writing this, so if it ends up not making the cut and is only in honorable mentions, that's why. So I've never played Kirby Air Ride before. I've mentioned it in other videos that my first Nintendo home console was the Wii. I had a Game Boy and a DS growing up, which allowed me to play tons of Pokemon and licensed shovelware shit like the Lilo and Stitch games, but this was a PlayStation 2 household if it wasn't already obvious enough. GameCube games were relegated to the cool, weird, colorful games that I would see at either friends' houses or neighbors' houses. That meant I didn't know what to expect when going into this game. I seriously did not even know if this was just going to be Mario Kart with a Kirby coat of paint on it or something else entirely. I am so untapped into certain Nintendo stuff that I don't even know if other people found this to be satisfying as a long-awaited sequel or a disappointing letdown. It's one of the few games that I'm going into that feels like it was going to be a large hyped release with a complete blank slate. No expectations, no ideas of what I'm getting into, nothing. Getting thrown to the wolves by my friends just booting up an online lobby of City Trial was an experience to say the least.
Alex, you're just right on the side of the mountain! Get off the
mountain! I'm having fun, leave me alone!
Alex, you ran into a box, your machine blew up! You gotta get another fucking car.
Help, I can't control myself, I don't know what's happening! Dude, I was in first place and got fucked at the end! What happened? This is bullshit!
Did he win?
I'm fucking crazy!
He got third.
Literally doing the mate, biting the metal, spraying themselves with champagne, third place.
Loading in, I was thinking, yeah, this is gonna be just a straightforward Kirby-styled racing game, right? So when it faded out to black and I was in a big sandbox town and was told to pick up shit while giant things were falling from the sky and people were exploding, it felt like I was a small child being picked up by a Gmod admin with a prop gun and being dropped into a mosh pit expected to fend for myself, as if I was spawned into the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, watching Waddle Dees and Ricks exploding left and right. It was a blast, a confusing one where I didn't know what the hell was happening and just kept going, I thought this was a racing game, in the same cadence of, oh my god, dude, this is an MMA fight. But I was having fun. I love Kirby. Very few things bring me the boundless, warm, and fuzzy feelings of joy quite like this series. I don't care if their recent games are so easy that they feel like they're made for babies. I love how colorful they are, I love how they sound. First-party Nintendo games always have a very specific and excellent approach to their sound effects, both in gameplay and menus. I love the energy they always bring. Forgotten Land was one of my favorite games from 2022, and Air Riders brings everything that I love from this series to the table and then some. It's been a blast unlocking all of my favorite characters to mess around with, still working on getting my goat Rick. For a Nintendo game, the online is surprisingly functional. I didn't experience any noticeable moments of lag. Granted, I only played with friends from the United States, so maybe it's less stable with randoms or anyone in Europe or Asia. That's what happened when I tried to play Bowser's Fury with Rada of Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh! When it came out, and it was completely unplayable due to the lag. It felt like we were trying to play this over dial-up. I felt like I actually got scammed after hearing people say, no, this one actually has good online. Nintendo finally got it right. The connections in this game were East Coast where I am to friends in the West Coast and California, and the connection quality was good, so maybe there's hope for Nintendo yet. I don't know where I'd rank this if I got more time with it. It's really fun, and I'm always welcoming a game that gives me another avenue to play with friends. I need to spend more time with the single-player content to see if it will hold up on its own once people stop playing it, because that is the thing I'm always afraid of with multiplayer games, especially a $70 Nintendo game I know that is never going to be cheaper. So far, a positive experience that I will continue to play and make fun memories with my friends. To not keep people in suspense, yeah, I did not have the time to finish Donkey Kong Bananza, or at least played enough where I was satisfied in putting it somewhere on the main list, so here it is in honorable mentions. With the limited time I had with it, I managed to get to the Clay Industrial Zone, which I believe is Layer 3. I'm really enjoying the game so far, and if it stays at this level of quality, it would easily plant itself in the top 10 of my list. Its gameplay loop is extremely dangerous to my brain because they made destroying the environment so fun and satisfying to do that I spent a lot of my time just terraforming locations like I was a HoloLive VTuber in a freshly generated Minecraft world. The great flattening occurred in every new location I got to as I tore through the ground like a hungry locust. The game is so fucking smooth to play, and each zone has been varied and interesting to explore. It's pretty standard in what you'd expect from a Nintendo game, but I do love how vibrant Donkey Kong Bananza is. I don't know if others have brought this up before, but I really love how modern Nintendo games render bodies of water. I remember seeing clips of Paper Mario Origami King, and that was the first time I really noticed it, even if a few games had done this specific look before it. What music I have heard has so far been really catchy. I've only unlocked the Big Monkey form, and that feels great to use. I get that this is a kid's game at the end of the day, but I couldn't help but notice and question that the transformation meter was just always full. I was able to just consistently chain Big Monkey mode back to back, and maybe this is something that will change in the future as I get the other forms while the levels and gameplay continues to evolve, but I kept feeling the same way I do about Detective Vision in other games, which is, why wouldn't I always just be in Big Monkey mode? Besides just exploring faster, which I guess is the main drawback, it was mainly just how annoying it was to keep doing the drumming transformation thing over and over again that was holding me back from what otherwise felt like would have been something I constantly was doing. Seriously, if I wasn't getting sick of hearing the drumming and doing the input over and over again every 30 seconds, I couldn't see myself not being constantly in monkey mode. Again, this is just mid-playthrough observations that likely will change or evolve in time as I play through more of it. This is a game I cannot wait to get back to and play at my own pace because it's the exact type of experience I enjoy savoring and not feeling the constraints or pressure of making content out of it. My next honorable mention is Look Outside, the Smash RPG Maker horror game of the year. The reason it's here is because I picked this game up earlier in 2025, and when I went to boot it up for the first time, I saw the 1.6 update had just come out and mentioned a 2.0 version coming out around Halloween. So I chose to hold off on playing it because I didn't want to have to go through the entire game and possibly beat it only for it to add a ton of content like I knew it was going to, only for me to have to start it over again because I was locked out of content based on my choices. It's why I never did any of the side quests in Elden Ring because I played it at launch, and when that shit was patched into the game, I was already past the point for multiple NPCs quest criteria, and if I wanted to see any of their content, it required a New Game Plus playthrough. I don't usually like to play games multiple times and would rather wait till all of the content is in, unless I really can't help myself in cases like Ultra Kill, where I've been consistently playing it for the past 5 years since the demo dropped. I probably wouldn't have played Fear and Hunger 2 yet if I knew that the big update was coming that changes a bunch of shit and is adding a whole new area, but alas, here we are. So 2.0 eventually dropped 2 months later on October 28th. I thought it was finally my time to play the game, but then 3 weeks later I opened up the Steam page and saw 2.1 had dropped, and they seemed to have added even more shit to the game. Look Outside is an endlessly growing panopticon where every time you look away from it for a few seconds, suddenly there is even more shit stapled on. It's seriously impressive how dedicated they are to this game and how content rich and dense the game is. It's one of the best bangs for your buck you could ask for from a video game, especially an indie title going for $10 normally and $7 on sale, but for someone like me, Look Outside is the OCD brain destroyer. I want to see everything I possibly can do in a single playthrough, and will obsess over the worry of missing content to the point that a game like this drives me insane. I don't want to look up shit, but there is a mind goblin gnawing at the back of my mind while I play a game like this. The way I play Look Outside, Fear and Hunger, and immersive sims is one of the most unwatchable things possible. I love to test and experiment with how things interact. I love constantly reloading saves to experience different permutations. I dedicate quote-unquote runs just to see what happens with the intention that I am going to likely die, and that is okay because I am gaining a lot of knowledge in how I want to actually progress the game and story. This as a result means that that I play a game like this incredibly slow and over the course of a long period of time, like how I put 30 hours into a single playthrough of Fear and Hunger, 42 hours into a single playthrough of the second game, 40 hours into the original Deus Ex, and you get the idea. Being on a tight time constraint to get this video out while a Game of the Year 2025 video is still relevant means that I am not finishing it and being satisfied with it to give it a rank. But let's talk mechanics. One of the coolest things Look Outside does is how it adapts survival horror gameplay and save systems to an RPG Maker game. You have a meter that will fill by putting yourself into danger. The more time you spend exploring, fighting, and rummaging around your apartment building, the more you get rewarded when you safely come back to your room. The other extremely cool thing about Look Outside is how the monsters evolve during combat. There are some seriously inspired designs in this game, as you see a lot of people in your building slowly, or in some cases rapidly, mutate into horrifying flesh masses. The sprite work and the sound design when this happens is so good. Like seeing the painter's copy split into 3 green masses of goo has really stuck with me, or the tooth family that keeps growing more and more rows of teeth like an out-of-control tumor. This brings me to how engaging the writing is. Initially, I wasn't that drawn in. It wasn't bad, but it felt like a ton of stuff I'd seen before. And while that has remained true from what I've seen so far, it just kept drawing me in more and more as I met more people in the apartment building, getting to talk to them and seeing how each and every one of them has been affected differently by whatever the hell is happening outside. Like this one guy who turned into a bug's nest after being bit by an insect that looked outside. The writing and striking sprite work elevate each other masterfully and helps this game stand out amongst the ocean of amazing RPG Maker games. Unless this game massively shits the bed, which I have no reason to believe as of where I am, it would end up at the very least in my top 10 placements, if not top 5. I think Francis Colombe has put out one of the new RPG Maker classics to add to your list. Demonschool was one of my most anticipated games for the second half of the year, as it looked right up my alley with its visual style, color choices, atmosphere, and combat. I was so pumped to play it and had my week cleared out for it, and then Silk Song, a game I have no interest in, decided to drop its release date, which was the same week as Demonschool, so they decided to delay their game to November, thus I did not get enough time to finish it. I love how this game blends the use of 2D and 3D. You have this isometric point of view reminiscent of Persona 2, but then you see the camera move and be placed in interesting positions you wouldn't expect from a sprite-based game. It's super cool. I love how the stage transitions from the regular world into the combat grids. The combat is really fun as it's framed around setting up all of your moves to kill as many enemies as possible and maximizing your party's capabilities, then watching it all play out after you lock it in. I've seen it compared to Into the Breach's gameplay, but I haven't played that, so I'm not 100% sure how true that is. My friend said it reminded them more of things like Frozen Synapse and Metal Slug Tactics more than Into the Breach. The game I first thought of when doing the tutorial was Yomi Hustle. It's super satisfying to see all of your attacks come together and watch the dominoes fall. The game makes an excellent first impression, and it feels like it's hand-tailored to a lot of my interests. If you're looking for something to scratch the SMT and Persona 2 vibe, then definitely check this one out. Of the many immersive sims that came out this year, the only one that I played that was a full release and not in early access was Brush Burial Gutter World. That's not a diss at any of the sims in early access, I just wanted to limit this year's list to full releases. The reason this game is in honorable mentions instead of the main list proper is for the thing I talked about in the Look Outside segment. I like to play emergent games with tons of approaches and gameplay freedom, like this in a very OCD experiment kind of way. I spend more time than you probably should to see how shit works in immersive sims, so I haven't put in my autistically mandated 40 hours for this game before I feel comfortable enough to say I've seen everything I wanted. And with this game not having mid-mission saves, that's going to take a lot longer than it otherwise would. Not that that's an issue, I respect that the game has that, and that the developer has this message when you start up the game. It helps set expectations, lets the developer give their intent, and allows the player to understand what the developer wants from you, what they expect from you, and what the intended experience is meant to be. I think it's almost mandatory to have for any game that is doing something weird and unique, especially when it comes to controls. I love when developers put this into their games. It's in the same ilk of further expanded and explained difficulty settings, instead of just the ooh goo goo gaga baby mode and we are going to put you into the contraption, and you're not coming out of it until we have thoroughly crushed your balls with a hammer. I want to give props to last year's Magenta Horizon and another game further down on the list proper for including this. Brush Burial is for the gooners in the audience, as you play as a bowling pin with 2 watermelons strapped to it, given sentience. You are a demon girl with a design that reads like the Midna green text Dagoth reads out, and you kill people doing jujitsu leg triangles by smothering dudes with your huge ass and thighs to death. The animations for your grappling executions do a great job at selling how violent bone snaps can be. I've always felt that jujitsu and grappling is such an underutilized thing in games and action movies, and as a lover of combat sports, it's great to see it represented in such a satisfying way like in this game. You also have a tail that allows for free-form vertical traversal of levels, which feels great to use once you get the hang of things. This is definitely the first game I've ever said that you should do this, but I highly recommend watching the gameplay video on the store page before playing the game, as it's a better demonstration of what you can do in Brush Burial and what this game has to offer compared to its actual tutorial. I doubt I ever would have figured out that you can use your tail to grab bullets out of midair when using the bullet time to slow them down. One thing I don't really like about this game, that maybe will get better in time as I get used to it more, is how your hands and inventory works. When you pick things up, they go into your hands, and if you try to pick something up, the game will say that your hands are currently full. So you either then have to drop said item or put it away by pressing one of the number keys to assign it to a slot. Slot 1 and 2 are reserved only for weapons and tools. It just feels really awkward, especially in frantic scrambles where you don't have time to mess around. Going from one slot to another swaps the items around, which further adds to the confusion of the system, as shown on screen where I keep swapping this key and a plate between slot 3 and 4. With the limited HUD on, you cannot tell what is in what slot, and with the expanded one, not only does it take up too much space for my liking and obstructs your vision of the game, a lot of the icons aren't even that clear when looking at them, not to mention at a glance when you have to be quick and stealthy. I'm all for weird and unconventional approaches to mechanics that we kinda take for granted in most games. One of the highest rated games on my list has an extremely elaborate reload system, but I don't jive with this at all. Maybe it would be better if I had more HUD layout options, or maybe I just need to give it more time, but for now it's my sole big complaint in an otherwise really fun, small, ambitious immersive sim. I've referred to a lot of games as feeling like they fell out of time, and I can't think of one that fits this description more than one that quite literally did, like Captain Blood, a game that was originally supposed to come out on the Xbox 360, and you can find ads and articles like this Edge magazine page from 2010. It's a charming little game that was development held, cancelled, shelved, and resurrected 15 years later for some reason, so it could finally see the light of day in 2025. I don't know why this happened and who is responsible for this, even if it likely won't make any money, but I know in my heart of hearts whoever did this thinks that we, as a society, needed this to heal. It's a AA game from a period where AA games still existed. It's like seeing an actual dodo walking around in a zoo right next to the Boston Dynamics murder bot. For better and worse, it is a late 6th gen, early 7th gen action game through and through. It feels surreal that this game looks, feels, and plays like it has been perfectly preserved in carbonite for all of these years and thawed out without changing anything. When you hear about games like this finally coming out, usually they have a clear design shift from when they started getting influenced by modern games, but only in a way rivaled by Shenmue 3 does this game somehow exist as if created isolated from the passage of time. Japanese soldiers trapped on an island thinking World War II is still happening, in parentheses, good ending. Visually, the closest thing it reminds me of is Fable 2 and 3. Mechanically, it's a step above your super basic single button action games, usually relegated to movie license tie-ins like Shrek, but, you know, not by much. It's got all the hallmarks that larger, big-budget mainstream games have mostly long since moved away from, like these QTE segments, turret sequences, super cheesy voice acting, and you get the idea. It's the charming, jank 6 or 7 out of 10 of the year that personally tickles a lot of my interests. I highly doubt it will be your next favorite or something you should be busting out the wallet to play ASAP, but it's always nice to play a cute little game like this in a market flooded with a lot of shit that just pisses me off or is meant to maximize wasting my time. Mafia The Old Country is a game that unfortunately fell victim to the I had to lock in to finish a video with a deadline, so I stopped playing every other game other than the one I am currently making a video on, and as a result never went back to it. I mostly enjoyed what I played of the game, which sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it's really just that there is one segment that I just hate and don't want more of. It was the stealth segment where you have to sneak into the shipyard and find the confiscated wine. I've become somewhat of a stickler for stealth segments in games, and more often than not hate when non-stealth games have a stealth segment because it usually does the Last of Us Evil Within 1 approach of awkwardly crouching down in front of a box and rubbing your character's face against it while trying to peek around with the camera because the game doesn't allow you to enter cover like Gears of War or post-Absolution Hitman. Mafia The Old Country has the other thing that I hate about modern stealth games, and that is detective vision. It really is the ultimate why would I ever not have this on other than the fact that it makes the game look like shit. Giving the player wall hacks feels like such a boring way to do stealth and level design. You look through walls to see where a guy is and where they are facing, throw a bottle, and then scoot your ass and crouch walk across the gaps to the next form of cover. Yes, my favorite stealth games do have this, but that isn't the only method of stealth and distraction like in games with boring stealth implementations like this. It's my only real complaint with the game so far, as I love the setting and time period. The location allows for some very nice scenery and vistas. The performances are really good, as is the camera work. With the absolute deluge of open world games with 10,000 fucking boring ass things to collect and boring activities to do, it's a nice change of pace for a more linear experience. I really liked Mafia 2, despite being unable to finish the game myself and had to watch the final chapter on YouTube back in the day because of a progression bug right at the end of the game, but its barren open world was easily my least favorite part, and it felt like it was there because every vaguely GTA-like game had to have one. It was government mandated, in case you didn't know. I looked up the penal code. I enjoy how almost episodic in nature the structure of this game's story is. You jump around to a whole bunch of different points and almost have a life sim approach of making you do a whole bunch of random shit, which may not be the deepest mechanically, like the stealth or the horse racing, but sells living through Enzo's life, getting to see how he is able to now experience so many different things after escaping being a slave working in a mine shaft to being taken in by Don Torrisi. It feels reminiscent to how a lot of 70s movies, including The Godfather, were structured like. I know the game isn't that long, so I really should have gotten back to it and finished it once my schedule cleared up again, but I am absolutely terrible at starting and restarting things once I put them down. ADHD and executive function disorder and all that jazz. It's been a really good year for action games, between the plethora of character action titles coming out from both indie developers and AAA studios, 2D hack and slash games that are doing more than just being roguelikes where you select 3 cards to modify how your game plays. There has also been an ocean of Souls-likes flooding the market as well. Now, I want to preface this by saying I do not hate Souls-likes. I am not one of those guys who goes on insane rants on Twitter or in videos about how they have ruined action games or video games in general with their extreme popularity and how tons of studios are copying from software's designs and mechanics as if that's somehow their fault. I do, however, think it's an extremely oversaturated market that features a lot of neat ideas and cool art direction, but also a lot of games that blur together, execute the ideas poorly, or aren't doing enough or anything interesting to warrant being a Souls-like and would have been better suited to just being a more conventional action game. This isn't an issue issue with the formula itself, it's more of an issue that everyone is trying to do that without adding some spice. Same thing happens with horror games all the time, like when they all tried to be like Resident Evil after Resident Evil 1 and 2 were massive, or when Amnesia and Outlast shifted the genre again back in the 2010s, and every horror game was running away and did not let you fight back, or when everything was impossible space mind benders because of PT. It also doesn't help that every fucking Souls-like trailer is exactly the fucking same, to the point I am watching game showcases like the Summer Jeff Fest and beat by beat saying what is going to happen in the trailer seconds before it does, because that's how fucking predictable and samey they are.
He's gonna walk, it's gonna walk back, and she's gonna walk slightly to the right. Yep, there it is, slightly to the right. You're gonna see in a second them locked on, and the guys are gonna slowly attack. They're gonna do an attack at you, like a big leaping strike, and you're gonna jump. Yep, there it is. You're gonna dodge to the right. Yep, there it is.
After one of these state of plays earlier in the year, I wanted to edit together every Souls-like trailer just to demonstrate how you can't tell half of these fuckers apart because they all do the same thing without enough interesting twists to stand out. I also think that Elden Ring has well and truly burnt me out on the Souls formula to the point that I need to take a long break from it, which sucks because I keep seeing so many things that look extremely cool and right up my alley aesthetically, but then I remember I'm going to have to do all of the Souls staples like RPG leveling for incremental stat boosts until I could wield shit that interests me, equipment managing, boss walkbacks from bonfires, and picking up your souls after you die. This leads me to Khazan, a game I was instantly interested in playing after seeing its reveal. It looked like a return to fun 2000s edgy anime aesthetics and action similar to how Stranger of Paradise was. When I found out it was going to be a Souls-like instead and have the loot system Neo incorporated from Diablo, it killed a lot of my momentum, but it still looked like it was filled to the brim with shit right up my alley. After playing it for a bit, everything I thought going in rang true. It's a very fun, good feeling Souls-like that I would adore if it didn't have all of the conventions developers have decided needs to be in all of their action games now. From where I got to in Khazan, it did not feel like it was gaining anything from being a Souls-like instead of a more conventional action game. The stamina bar, the bonfires, the RPG leveling didn't add anything to the experience that I would have been missing with their exclusion. I don't like the Diablo loot shit, but at least it gives you some bonuses for matching pieces and completing sets. I would have loved if this game took the approach that Stranger of Paradise did for action mechanics and meter/stamina management. I feel it's the perfect balance and approach for having a faster paced Souls-like with more combo complexity beyond 3-hit melee swings and maybe a special art tied to your weapon or character. Instead of having your main swings be tied to stamina, you can do them freely, and only your special move, weapon arts, or whatever modifiers you have are tied to your stamina meter of choice. That way it keeps the game fast, responsive, and engaging without the start and stop sluggishness that feels counterintuitive in Khazan, where I do a single melee string and suddenly I am out of stamina and can't do anything else. This isn't a slow, methodical game like a lot of other Souls-likes, so I think the stamina management does nothing for Khazan's combat other than holding me back from doing cool shit they have given me access to. Seriously, the combat itself feels great, even if I like the spear a lot less than the greatsword or the dual blades. All three weapons are fun to use. The special moves are so satisfying to land. I love this roulette spin with the dual blades, but then I'm yanked back like a misbehaving dog now that my stamina bar needs to be refilled. I gotta spend my souls on menial stat increases I can't even perceive a difference to most of the time because you don't even have stat requirements to wield your three weapons. I've been dumping tons of points into stamina so I could swing my sword more, and it doesn't feel like it's adding that much even though I can physically see the bar getting bigger on my screen. I don't know why this game doesn't have on-the-fly weapon swapping instead of requiring you to constantly go into the menus, which gets old extremely fucking fast. The moves you get to expand the depth of each weapon are cool, but so far far, it's felt way too slow to get them for my liking, and as a result has the same issue another game later on the list has, where it feels more like it's highlighting how bare bones your weapons are at first until you get more points into each of them, rather than demonstrating how you are growing and getting stronger by learning more moves. The menu for them and your perks also isn't very good. Everything is just annoyingly spread out amongst these small little trees. The level design is one step up from pure hallways, which wouldn't be an issue. I don't expect anything to recapture Dark Souls 1, no matter how hard they try and fail to, but I do think they are overly large for how boring they are to explore. Every game with stamina meters should just do the Elden Ring thing where running doesn't drain your stamina when not in combat. I'm so tired of walking back to boss fights after losing them and having to skip cutscenes every single time. I seriously feel like at this point there is nothing to gain as an experience from having to walk your ass back instead of just having an instant retry and a teleport back to your last bonfire option in the menu so you don't get stuck. Especially when some of these walkbacks aren't even that long, they're just mildly annoying, but it quickly adds up. At least they put your dropped souls outside the boss room so you can get them and try to level up, whereas in most games you have to keep picking them back up at the start of every attempt of fighting the boss again. So far, the bosses that I've fought are really cool, especially in the design department, but I think every single boss having a phase 2 second health bar form change or moveset expansion makes it a lot less special when it happens. It gets old because it never feels like a surprise that there is a phase 2 when you know it's coming. You don't get moments like the headless ape in Sekiro when you are conditioned to expect it from every boss. I don't think Khazan is a bad game. In fact, I think it's a very well made and satisfying to play game, but as someone who has grown tired of the Souls-like hallmarks, thinking that they are way past stale, their inclusions aren't adding anything to the experience for me and holding me back from truly loving something that I think has all of the elements to be one of my all-time favorites. If you are not tired of the Souls-like formula, then this is something you should absolutely pick up. And if you take anything away from this segment, please check out Stranger of Paradise. It's my favorite of these non-From Software Souls-like that actually does something unique and different that you can't get anywhere else. It was my game of the year for 2022. The last honorable mention is Digimon Time Stranger. I fucking love Digimon. My favorite season is Frontier, and I am still salty to this day that we never got a PlayStation 2 action game based on it because it felt like something perfectly designed for a surprisingly competent and underrated action game circa 2004 like the Berserk game, Gungrave, and Blood Will Tell. Time Stranger oozes style with things like its striking anime opening. The game simply looks great. They've been on a roll since Cyber Sleuth, which I frankly don't remember jack shit about and haven't touched since the year it came out, and I have long since lost my save files because my first PS4 corrupted all of my game saves, and I didn't pay for the scam that is PS Plus, so no cloud saving backups. The Digimon story games have been a benchmark for comparison for how lacking the 3D Pokemon games look, as the Digimon games, with nowhere near the budget of Pokemon or the market return as them, features attack animations leagues better for all of their mons. I love how the menu on your Digivice looks. It feels reminiscent to 2000s internet UI design you would see in Japanese media like Dot Hack or systems like the PlayStation Portable or the PlayStation 3. I do find it a bit disappointing that pretty much all of the stylization of the menus is localized in this circular wheel, and once you click into any of these options, it's more of your standard minimalist crap you've seen everywhere else. I like how easy it is to modulate the game speed in combat even if the audio does get a little fucky and unsyncs when you do. I really appreciate the Digimon they give you in the starting hours, as it features a lot of my personal favorites. Yeah, it's probably too pandering to the popular Gen 1 guys like Agumon, but I got Impmon in the first hour, so I'm content. It's also nice how fast you can get your own of any Digimon you encounter with the data system. I like the non-committal branching paths of evolution. I also enjoy that the game does the MMO approach to post-fight healing. I just hate how it's implemented. After you get into a battle, you can stand still for a few seconds and then your party will begin to heal back to full. Continuing to move keeps this optional if you want to give yourself more of a challenge, but if you choose to use this feature, then you have to stand still for 10 or more seconds each time after every battle and watch the timer tick down until everybody is healed. I wish it was just instant, because this adds just as much start and stop feeling to the gameplay that this system is trying to alleviate. The weakest part of the game for me has been the story, but maybe it'll eventually pick up and really hook me. It's not bad, it just hasn't driven me to see what happens next. Like a lot of my all-time favorite JRPGs have me wanting and craving to see what happens next, to the point that random battles start to get annoying because yeah, I'm dying to see the story. I'm so happy that Digimon games are still going strong and coming out at this level of quality. I definitely plan to spend a lot of my free time chipping away at it after this video. And that's it for now. Come back in a few days for part 2 to see the main list proper. I originally wanted this to be all one video, but you know, getting a 3+ hour video out during the holidays is not realistic when you're bad at time management like me. So I hope you enjoyed part 1, and I'm gonna go enjoy Christmas with my family. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you for watching as always. If you really liked this video, then please leave a like, a comment, and pass the video around. I'm now going to shout out all of my $5 and up patrons and YouTube members who really help support the channel. Andy F., Bully, Densha, Turbo Chicken, Strawberry Tofu, Scary Dinosaur, Quartz, Kevin Velasquez, Lotto, Saiyan Hegi, Medi Not the Bad Guy, Burley, Dev Walken, Chikun Highwin, Vaso, Friday Night Fragging, Metal Cactus, Ben Johnson, Chichometrius, Ek Frazo, Nicholas Pedinato, Leon, Buckets, Sean the Berserker Fighter, Shisaji, Jacob Hamilton, Ben Olsberg, Mataru, Neutral Guy, Stank8247, Dan XDXD10, and Trevingsley8050. Thanks so much, everyone. As I just mentioned, part 2 is coming in a few days, so please be excited and look forward to that. And as always, thank you for watching, and see you next time.